Hi, Teak Tigers. It's Mrs. Stara. I'm here to review with you a very important reading skill, main idea and supporting details. We also refer to it as the central idea at times. First, we're going to review this anchor chart that will help remind you of some good questions to ask when you're trying to identify the central idea of a text. Okay. First question, what is the text mainly about? So what is the whole thing about, and what is the author trying to get you to understand, or what point is he trying to get across? What information is in the title or subheadings? And what do I see in the illustration? So once again, we're going to be using text features to help us figure out what the central idea of a selection is. Do I see the main idea in the first or last sentence? Or are any words used repeatedly? So those last two are big tips for finding central idea. Sometimes they're found in the first, not always, but sometimes they are found in the very first sentence or even the last sentence of a paragraph or of a selection, or even a section of the text. And then also, if you hear the word repeatedly said over and over again, that's a pretty good tip that that's what the topic of the selection is, and that can lead you to figure out what the central idea is as well. All right. Let's see. So we're also going to work on identifying the details or facts that support that central idea. As we continue with nonfiction, you're going to see that those supporting details come in many forms. So it's important that you read the whole selection very carefully and pay close attention to the text features throughout the selection as well. So some of those deep details that support the main idea, information, descriptions, dialogue, actions, thoughts. Also statistics, where the author might use numbers or scientific data just to support an idea that he has. Explanations, maybe through, for example, maybe through a caption under a photograph. Illustrations, graphs, and charts. So once again, you're going to need to pay close attention to the entire selection, and don't forget about those text features that you may think that they're not important, but remember, as we learned last week or reviewed last week, text features are very purposeful. They have a purpose and they have a reason, and sometimes they can help lead you to the central idea of a text. All right, so our goal for today is to be able to identify the details or facts that support the central idea. So I've chosen an article called Game Changer. This is a nonfiction informational text, so you need to be, as we're reading it, thinking about what do you see that helps you to know. So how do you know this is nonfiction or informational? Also, you want to keep in mind or try to figure out why the author wrote the selection. We know that with nonfiction, it's to inform or teach about something, but as you're listening, think about what are they trying to what is the author trying to give you information about or to teach you about. All right, so let's go ahead and scan the article real quick and check and see what text features we can find. I see a photograph up at the top with a caption, bold print title called Game, and it's called Game Changer. I also see some bold print words. Those are obviously words that the author thought was important vocabulary, wanted you to know. And it looks like those words show up in the bottom in a little mini glossary. So once again, you would want to review that before you start reading, which we will do. And then also I see some bold print headings. Remember, the headings help us to know what this section is going to be about. That might help us to predict what the central idea of each section is going to be about, or what the central idea is. So let's look at those words that are important. Opponents are people you compete against. Ban is to not allow something. And symptoms, changes in your body that mean you are sick or injured. All right, so let's start reading. And as I'm reading, I'm thinking about the central idea and also maybe at least one supporting element, something that would support it that I might want to highlight, just so I'm, focusing on what our lesson is for today. All right, so let's read it. This fall brought a big change to youth football in Vicksburg, Mississippi. The town's YMCA football league stopped letting third and fourth graders tackle. These players now play flag football instead. In flag football, players stop opponents who have the ball by pulling flags off their waists, not by knocking them down. Vicksburg isn't alone. Across the U.S., many leagues have started to ban tackling for young players. They hope this change will help kids avoid serious head injuries. So I've put in my text box off to the side that the introduction central idea is that many youth football leagues have banned tackling to help kids avoid head injuries. That's what I thought was most important thing that that I was supposed to take from the introduction there. If I was going to highlight something that would support that they've banned tackling to avoid head injuries, if they've banned it, they've probably done something else. So instead, they're now playing flag football instead. Let me see if I can turn on my. There we go. These players now play flag football instead, so they're not knocking them down anymore. All right, so let's go on to the next section. Whoops, there we go. It's called Heads Up. During a tackle, players can hit their heads against other players or the ground. If a hit is hard, it can cause a concussion. That's a brain injury that happens when a blow to the head causes the brain to shake inside the skull. Common symptoms of this injury include dizziness, headaches, and memory loss. Sometimes there are no symptoms. Hard hits to the head are bad for players of any age, but experts say they can be especially dangerous for kids. Dr. Bennett Omalu is an expert on head injuries. He says that kids' brains are still developing. Research has shown it only takes one concussion to cause damage, says Omalu. All right, so for the section Heads Up, and before we go on, I do want to do a real quick vocabulary question on this. The word concussion, if you're not sure what the word concussion means, if you read around, I'm going to see if you know. It says if a hit is hard, it can cause a concussion. That's a brain injury that happens when a blow to the head causes the brain to shake inside the skull. So right now, think what words will help you to understand what the word concussion means. All right, if you said brain injury, then you are correct. Those are the words that would help you to understand what the word concussion means. All right, so after reading the section Heads Up, I put that the central idea is that hard hits from tackles can cause head injuries and are dangerous. Okay, so why are hard hits dangerous? Let's find a supporting detail that I can highlight on that. Well, what about hard hits to the head are bad for players of any age? They can be dangerous. Why are they dangerous? Maybe because The kids' brains are still developing. So that would support that hard hits can cause um, head injuries and that they're dangerous. All right, and then the last section, let's read that one. Tackling debate. Some youth leagues say there is no need to ban tackling. Instead, they say players can be taught to tackle more safely. Pop Warner, the nation's biggest youth football league, lets kids tackle at age 5. It teaches kids to use their shoulders, not their heads, to make contact. Pop Warner also recently banned kickoffs for kids ages 5 to 10. The biggest hits often happen during these plays. In a kickoff, one team kicks the ball to the other while both teams run toward each other at full speed. But leagues like the one in Vicksburg are making players wait until 5th grade or even later to start tackling. They say that tackling isn't worth the risk to kids. All right, so when that final section, I put for the central idea that some leagues don't see a need to ban tackling while others do. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use that last section and we're going to practice filling in a graphic organizer, kind of like you're going to do for your assignment today when you read a different text and you're going to apply it to it. So first we need to go ahead and highlight some supporting details for our central idea in that last section. So once again, our central idea is some leagues don't see a need to ban tackling while others do. So the thing, there may be more, but I'm going to choose at least 3 because that's what's needed for our graphic organizer. So some of the things I think that would support that idea is that this one, it says some youth leagues can be taught to tackle more safely. So they don't think that they need to ban tackling. They can just teach them how to tackle safely. Another one, another supporting detail could be that they often, let's see, instead of banning tackling, they just ban the kickoffs. So it says Pop Warner also recently banned kickoffs because they're the biggest hits that happen during those plays. So that would support the idea that they don't see a need to ban tackling. They're just going to ban the kickoffs. And then we also said others do, while others do. So down here it says, but leagues like Vicksburg are making players wait until 5th grade. So that would support the idea that others do see a need to ban tackling. So I'm going to highlight that as well. Let's see. Leagues in Vicksburg are making players wait until 5th grade because it isn't worth the risk. Okay. All right. So I looked at the last section of the text game changer, which was tackling debate, and I put the central idea and the highlighted supporting details into this graphic organizer. As you can see, they all fit and work together just like puzzle pieces in a puzzle. So for today's assignment, you're going to be reading a selection called Facing the Flood. So as you're reading, you're going to look for the central idea and supporting details in each paragraph or section. Don't forget, though, to continue annotating those important things like the author's purpose and genre as well. Then you're going to answer a few questions, and you're going to fill in a graphic organizer just like this one. Remember, you can always look back at this graphic organizer example or at the anchor chart at the beginning of this lesson for tips on finding the central idea or supporting details. All right, that's all for now. Have a great day, Tigers.